When you're programming a universal programmable TPMS sensor, you're doing more than just setting the ID. You're setting the protocols that the TPMS needs to be able to communicate with the vehicle. We're going to find out what those protocols are next.
This video is sponsored by Autel, manufacturers and suppliers of professional diagnostic tools, equipment, and accessories. Visit autel.com to learn more.
The protocols that a TPMS sensor has to do to transmit the tire pressure to the vehicle change depending on the make, model, and even year of a vehicle. What a universal programmable sensor can do is it can replicate those protocols by programming it with a TPMS tool so it can communicate with the vehicle. One of the first things that gets programmed into the sensor is what frequency it's going to transmit at. About 96% of the vehicles out there transmit on two frequencies, 315 megahertz and 433 megahertz. There are some oddballs out there, but they're very few and far between. The next thing it's setting, well, the language that it's speaking to the vehicle in. This is typically code, and this basically determines when the sensor is going to transmit, what information it's going to transmit, and also how often it's going to transmit to the vehicle. It could be different from a Toyota that could transmit every 60 seconds, a Porsche every 20 seconds, a GM vehicle every 30 seconds. This is what's programmed onto the sensor. So what is a TPMS sensor transmitting? It depends. Some sensors, they just transmit the pressure and temperature of that tire and also its sensor ID. In some cases, it'll actually transmit information on the life of the battery. It all depends on the manufacturer of the sensor and also the vehicle. The sensor ID, well, that's typically unique to that vehicle and the sensor. Basically, it's a handshake between the TPMS antenna and module and the sensor to say, hey, this TPMS sensor is on this vehicle and it belongs to me. To program the ID into the sensor, it can be done with a tool. It can be acquired a couple different ways. It can be done through the OBD2 cable. It can be done by activating the sensor. And from there, you can then put the ID onto the sensor and program it in. As you can see, a universal programmable sensor is doing a lot of work along with a tool to program it. Keep this in mind the next time you're programming a sensor to go onto a vehicle. I'm Andrew Markell. Thank you very much.